And we're good to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. Hey, everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. I have a very exciting guest today. His name is Dr. John Scharffenberg, and he is a physician who is going to be 100 years old this year. I wanted to have him on for his 99th birthday, and we tried, but the date didn't work out. You know, it's interesting, if you watch my show regularly, one of the guests that comes on frequently is Dr. Hans Diehl, who's a beloved friend. Dr. Scharffenberg was his professor at Loma Linda, and Dr. Diehl told me to make sure to tell Dr. Scharffenberg not only to send his regards, but that it was Dr. Scharffenberg's tutelage that really inspired Dr. Diehl to found the world-renowned CHIP program. And hopefully today he's going to reveal the secrets to health and longevity. Please welcome Dr. John Scharffenberg. It's so nice to meet you.
Well, it's good to be with the group here. I'm excited about this little presentation. I want to tell you first about the name Scharffenberg. A lot of people haven't heard of that. That's a German name. But let me tell you about the notables among the Scharffenbergs. You know, in 1561, the first Polish Bible was printed by two Scharffenberg brothers in Krakow. They moved from a town in Germany, but now it's part of Poland. But they moved to Krakow, established this printing press. And that was the only Bible they had in Poland for 38 years. It's called the Scharffenberg Bible. I've seen it in the museum over there. Another interesting person in my tribe is Johann Scharffenberg from Norway. He was a psychiatrist, and he stood up against Quisling and Hitler. He said, I can prove Hitler's crazy. And anyway, he became a national hero. His sculptured head is on two different corners in Oslo. Then another interesting one is I have a minister of war from Denmark who was a Scharffenberg. He was born in 1810, died in 1889. But there was also a general, Scharffenberg. We are listed among the notables in Denmark. But in the book of the notables, it says these people are really Germans. They aren't Danish, but they've helped Denmark so much of the time that we list them with our people. And my grandmother's maiden name was Wolf, and all her friends are Jewish. So I think there's some Jewish in me. I wish there was, but I don't know. I haven't been able to save money like they're able to. But I think she was Jewish. But my father doesn't think so, because we got it all through Hitler's regime without being persecuted, And if they found out she was Jewish, I think they would taught her. So, but anyway, I have a couple of Scharffenbergs that were King Frederick's bodyguards. They were also over 7 feet tall, and a couple of those were Scharffenbergs. But anyway, that's about the name Scharffenberg. Now,
I've heard the name Sharpen Burger because there's a famous chocolatier named Sharpen Burger.
That's right. We spoke at the same food company once, just an art part. But anyway, I'm primarily a physician trained in nutrition. I got my training at Harvard, and I try to make everything very clear and concise. And I have a whole university nutrition course in one sentence. Believe it or not, I can give you everything you need to know in nutrition in one sentence. You want to hear it?
Yeah, it's going to be a short show, but sure enough, go ahead.
Okay, this is a sentence. Eat at the proper time a variety of natural non-processed food in quantities for ideal weight. So we're having proper time. That means no snacks. Eat only at mealtime. Okay. The second part of it is variety. Not too much variety of one meal or you get too fat. Okay. So it's a variety, but over a period of 10 days or so, you get all your nutrients you need. And then non-processed, natural. That's vital. That's vital. And then the right amount so you don't get too fat or too skinny. Those are the basic things you got to know. So
Well,
I can make the university course in nutrition very simple.
well, that's fantastic. I agree with you. I wrote a book called Unprocessed because we're not supposed to eat processed food.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, you were born in 1923. Did they even have processed food back then?
Oh, they had processed foods even back then. Yeah, they did.
But not to the degree they do today, though, right?
No, it's been getting worse.
Absolutely.
But the major thing that I think everybody needs to know is that people should be on a vegetarian diet. I think that's extremely important nutritionally. Uh, Next to tobacco and alcohol, meat is probably the greatest thing that's causing death. Now, we've done some good studies on this. Dr. Gary Fraser did studies in California. They took all the general population and saw how long they lived. And then he wants to see how long the vegetarians live. And he wanted to see who lived the longest. And he found out in California, the vegetarian men, 48.6% of them lived to be 85 or more. But the general population, only 19.5% of the men lived to be 85 or older. Now, the women live longer than the men. So the vegetarian women, 60.1% of them live to be 85 or older. But in the general population, only 39.3% of the women live to be 85 or older. So one of the major reasons for being a vegetarian, you're going to live longer. Now, why do you live longer? You just don't get sick as often. You don't get the cardiovascular disease. You don't get so much cancer. You're not so much likely to be overweight. So it's good to be a vegetarian. But another good reason for it is you have more endurance, more physical fitness. High carbohydrate diet, which is a vegetarian type of diet, gives you more physical, more endurance. It's better economically. You get more nutrition for the dollar if you put your money in plant foods instead of animal foods. Ecologically, environmentally, it's better. And the scientists have so many recommendations of how you ought to eat to get this nutrient or that nutrient. It's easily done on the vegetarian diet. But if you're not a vegetarian, it's very difficult to do. You have to work real hard to figure out how to do it, how to get the fiber you need, how to get less cholesterol, all that kind of problem. So it's the key. The vegetarian diet is a key to good health.
Well, you look great, so you must be doing something right. Now, is it okay, though, if we're vegan? Because I've been vegan for 45 years. I don't eat any animal products.
Yeah, well, that's a very good subject. Now, there haven't been enough on that side of the fence to do good scientific studies, but we do have some good information from the EPIC Oxford study. The EPIC Oxford study said that the vegans had 37% more fractures of the bones. That was because of the lack of calcium from not using the milk. But if you get 525 milligrams of calcium a day, you have no increased risk of calcium. That's why it's important, if you're a vegan, to make sure you get enough calcium. And I'll give you 3 natural ways to do it. And number 1 is cut your salt intake in half. That controls the excretion and reabsorption of sodium in the kidney, from the kidneys. You see? So if you cut your salt intake in half, it's like taking a calcium pill with 900 milligrams in it every day. So that's the number 1 thing, a natural way to get more calcium. Second thing is make sure your vitamin D is adequate. Vitamin D has to do with the absorption of calcium from the intestinal tract. if you get adequate vitamin D in your bloodstream, you will absorb 2 to 3 times more calcium. So that's why vitamin D, sunshine, is important. Now, the other thing you got to think about is when you are trying to get adequate D, make sure you're not counting the vitamin D and calcium and things from the things that have oxalic acid or phytic acid, because the sodium, for example, oxalate, calcium oxalate, that sort of thing, forms an insoluble salt and you can't absorb it. So, for example, spinach, that's going to keep you from absorbing the iron and the calcium. If you go to a Chinese cabbage, for example, does better than American type cabbage. Chinese cabbage doesn't have the oxalate. And so that helps you get more calcium. Now, another big problem we have around the world is lack of iron. There's 2 kinds of anemia problem. One is lack of iron. That makes a microcytic type of red cell, small red cell, and fewer of them. But macrocytic anemia can also occur. That's a large cell, few of them. They carry more hemoglobin, more iron, and all this sort of thing. It's good, but there's not enough of them to do the job. Now, microcytic is iron deficiency problem. Macrocytic is a deficiency of folic acid or a deficiency of B12 or pyridoxine. So I met a lady, she was pregnant over there in not Botswana. What's the town over there? I'm trying to think of the name of the town over in Asia. No, not Beijing. But anyway, we have a place there helping ladies with their health. And this lady had been pregnant 4 times, had lost babies every time. She is pregnant now again. She was anemic. And she said, "What shall I do?" I said, "Stop your drinking tea." The usual English tea decreases the absorption by 60% of your calcium, or your iron, I should say, of your iron. But it decreases calcium too, see. So we need to get off the things that decrease the intake of iron and keeps it from getting absorbed. Tea is number 1. A cup of tea decreases the absorption of calcium, or of iron, I should say, by about 60%. A cup of coffee decreases it by 50%. Now, here's something you'd be interested in. A cup of milk will decrease it 50%. The calcium in the milk helps to decrease the absorption of the iron. Okay? So you can drink the milk if you want to, but don't have it as the same meal you expect to get your iron, because it's going to decrease the intake of the iron. So the vegan, the total vegetarian, has to make sure he's getting adequate calcium, and that you can do in a natural way quite easily. For example, in Poland, they did 2 studies, 2 different groups did a study, and they found out that if you, the average person who doesn't use any dairy products will get maybe only 250 milligrams of iron a day. But to avoid that extra fracture risk, you got to get up to 525. Well, a cup of milk has 300 milligrams. Now, most of the milk substitutes that are made today have per cup the same amount as dairy has, which is 300 milligrams. So a cup of a milk substitute every day would be enough to put you over how much you have to reduce the fracture risk. So we can do that quite easily now. we should let people know how to do it. Less salt, adequate vitamin D, and don't count the calcium from the foods that have oxalic acid or phytic acid. Okay.
Well, I'm allergic to milk, so I'm not going to have it no matter what.
Yeah, yeah. But you can get calcium anyway.
Oh yeah, I eat a lot of greens, and I mean, I've broken bones, but not because I'm vegan. I think because I've been in like accidents, like serious accidents.
Yeah,
but
I've broken my bones 3 times too.
Yeah.
Even though we drank a lot of milk when I was home growing up, I still had lots of fractures. Okay. But anyway, I would say you need some fat in your diet.
Uh-oh. Now
let me explain about this a little bit. Why you need some fat. I wrote a book on what you need to know about fats. Okay.
Lift it up a little bit. I can't see it.
Can you see it? Can you see it?
Nice. Where do we get that book?
Well, I don't have any more of them, but I've been giving them out like water. But in here, I give 6 reasons as why you need some fat in the diet. Okay.
And by some, do you mean like a certain percentage, a certain amount of grams of fat per day?
Yeah. Now, you can get it in natural foods, most of it. See, the one reason is you need fat to absorb the fat-soluble vitamins and even beta-carotene. Beta-carotene is a water-soluble nutrient, but it's usually surrounded with fat. And you have to have fat-soluble material to take off that fat to absorb the carotene. Another reason why you need to get some fat in your diet is, let's see here, I'll give you the second reason. I got about 6 of them here, reasons. One is nature, by the way, most of nature's foods, natural foods, has fat-soluble nutrients in the foods, okay? But the food industry doesn't. But you need fat to absorb the fat-soluble vitamins, okay? The amount of fat needed to absorb the carotenoids seems low, only about 3 to 5 grams. You're talking about a teaspoon. You're not talking about very much. But fat is needed for infant development. Their brain is developed because of the fat, and the retina, the eyes. And that's not developed. It's developed in the embryo as the baby is growing, but even it's not completely developed after they're born. So the nerves and the brain and the retina needs to be developed, and you need particular fatty acids for that. Then there's DHA and EPA. Those are fat-soluble, long-chain fat-soluble nutrients that are good. Long-chain triglycerides. Get that mostly from fish. That's what helps the brain and helps the retina. But I don't like to eat fish. But they said you have to have fish at least once a day. I heard that at a vegetarian congress one time. The Dr. Fraser at Loma Linda, he's a cardiologist. He got together about 6 or 8 girls who were vegans, didn't use any animal product, took a big needle, stuck it into their buttocks, pulled out a fat globule, and had it analyzed for EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid, and for DHA. They had more than the people who ate fish had. Where did it come from? Nobody knows. Maybe some unusual soy product. I don't know how they got it. So we don't know about this business that you have to have separate, added to milk for the infant, this DHA. We're not sure you do. The scientific recommendations of how much you need the DHA and all, you can get that other ways, because here these people who didn't use any fish had plenty. Now you need enough fat to keep the LDL particle size at an optimum level. The LDL cholesterol is what raises the blood cholesterol level, but causes damage to the heart. That cholesterol is bad, the LDL type. Now, there's two kinds of LDLs. One is the large, light, buoyant type, which only increases the risk maybe twofold for a heart attack. But if you have the small, dense type, like the diabetic has, you increase your risk sevenfold. Now, we should measure how large these LDL cholesterol particles were. We don't do that anymore because we know from the triglyceride level what it's going to be. Okay? You see, your cholesterol is three types. You have the HDL, high density lipoprotein cholesterol, which we used to think you needed exercise to get that up high, and that decreased the risk of heart attack. But now we don't think it has anything to do with heart attack risk. Okay? Then there's the LDL cholesterol. That's what we treat people by. If that is high, we like to get that down. But it's the type of cholesterol that's very important. How do we know what type it is? You look at the triglyceride level. That's the $25 word for fat in the blood. So if the triglyceride level is normal, but at the high level, 90% of the LDL cholesterol particles are the bad kind, the small, dense kind, like the diabetic has, and you're much more apt to have a heart attack. If you get, instead of 150 milligrams, get it down to 60 or 80 milligrams a day, that's okay, because then 90% of the LDL particles are the light, large, buoyant type, which doesn't have near the possibility of causing damage to the heart. So the size of the triglyceride is important, and that depends on your triglyceride level. So when you go to see a doctor and you ask him about what's my cholesterol level, he'll usually say, you're okay, don't worry about it. Tell him that's not enough. You want to know the numbers. You want to know what your LDL cholesterol is and what your triglyceride levels are. LDL is what's killing the men from heart attacks. But the women are dying from the triglyceride being too high. Now, the LDL goes up because of the steaks, too many steaks. The triglycerides go up because you're overweight, you're obese. And that's the women's major cause of heart disease, you see? So she needs to know what her triglyceride level is. And if it's low, that's good, because that means the LDL particle is the better kind, less likely to cause heart attack. Another interesting thing, the overweight, of course, is a problem. How do you prevent excessive triglyceride elevation after you've eaten some fat? Don't eat too much fat at one meal. If it's 50 grams, it should be over 2 meals, not all eaten at the same meal, okay? So we don't want to get too much. Now, we said there are studies done that showed with a salad dressing, if you didn't put any fat on it, that you don't absorb the carotene. There are quite a few studies like that. But I'm good at getting on the phone and calling these people who write these articles. So I called this lady and I said, your name was on that paper that said you needed fat in order to absorb the beta carotene. Okay. She says, it's not convenient to talk to you right now. So I asked, when was a convenient time? Well, she gave me a date. I called back at that time. It still wasn't convenient. And I said to her, I've got a question for you. You had your name on the paper that says you have to have fat with your diet in order to absorb the carotene. Why is it when people take carrot juice that has no fat in it, they get carotenemia? She didn't know how to answer that. She didn't want to talk to me anymore. So some of our science isn't always right. We've got to figure that out. But it's good to have some fat, but you don't need very much fat. Okay.
That's great. People want to know. Oh, go ahead.
About longevity. I'm getting to the age now, being 99, be 100 before the year's up. And people want to know, how is it you live so long? In fact, I have outlived both of my brothers, one 13 years and one 16 years. These two older brothers already passed away. And I don't plan to die next year either. So I'm going to be, but the number of years I'm outliving them is going up right away. Okay. Now, why did I live longer? I checked everything out. We were all vegetarians. So that was not the answer. The main answer was exercise. When I was 51, I quit my job at teaching nutrition, School of Public Health at Loma Linda University. I've been on the faculty there for 63 years now and teaching nutrition. So I quit the job because it was too smoggy and I was too busy. So I moved out into the country, went up to North Fork, the exact center of California, east, west, north, south, above Fresno, into the mountains. Okay, it's a nice location. I bought 26 acres of land for $28,000. It backed into the national forest. And I got a chainsaw because it was all woods. And I started cutting down trees, made a road about a quarter of a mile back into the forest. And then I chainsaw enough and cleared enough land for about maybe 2 acres to grow garden. I had 80 fruit trees. One year I planted 3,000 strawberry plants. People say, what do you do with all those strawberries? They don't understand. Everybody likes strawberries. So the best way to make friends there is. Grow strawberries. Okay. But all that exercise, my brothers were in the city. They didn't get that exercise. I worked hard every day developing the land, building a house, and things like that. And so my exercise was so much better than my brothers. I think that's why I have outlived them so many years. So longevity exercise, I think, is one of the main things we need to do. Now, here's something you need to know. We've been treating people with drugs, medicines to lower their blood cholesterol. We've now just recently, as of about 2010, learned that lifestyle is more important than the drugs. Okay. They took the people who were taking these statin pills to lower their cholesterol. And with 93% of them, there was no increase in longevity. It didn't help them live any longer, though. And 7%, it did, because they were the group that already had heart disease. We don't really know how to tell who has atherosclerosis and who doesn't. If you've had a heart attack, you know. If you've had a stroke, you know. But it's too late. But they're giving all these people these medicines, these statin drugs, to lower their blood cholesterol. But for 93% of them, it doesn't do a bit of good. They find the best thing to lower your blood cholesterol, lower your risk of heart attack. The best thing is lifestyle. Now, what is it that we mean by lifestyle? We mean there's 7 risk factors: tobacco, alcohol, lack of exercise, overweight, and lack of or too much meat and sugar. Then also high blood pressure and high cholesterol, they added to that. But if you do these first 5, you're not have to have high blood pressure or high cholesterol. Think about that a minute. Tobacco, alcohol. What about alcohol? We've known for a long time, since about 1984, when the Surgeon General came out and said, look, tobacco's not good. We've known that. But alcohol, people still using a lot of alcohol. But they've done it, the biggest study ever done with alcohol. A man up at the University of Washington did it. He did it in about 191 countries, something like that. And he found out there's no safe level of alcohol. He wanted to know what level was safe because he used a little alcohol himself. He was a social drinker. Anyhow, he discovered there's no safe level. It's 0. It's the only safe level. More cancer by alcohol. For example, breast cancer. For the ladies, breast cancer is a big deal. Alcohol is one of the major causes of breast cancer. But we need to live properly, getting the exercise, keeping our weight down, and you can lower your risk of heart attack and cardiovascular disease, stroke. We can lower the risk 80% with lifestyle without any medicine. And so many of the medicines are not doing us any good anyway. So we should promote lifestyle. But our problem was we don't know who really has heart disease and who doesn't. We've got to do something medically to find out some simple way to tell who has atherosclerosis of the heart and who doesn't. We've been going by cholesterol level. It's not a good guide because 93%, it didn't help anybody at all. See, so we've been having people take all these pills, and now they've said we should tell them we've made a mistake. We used to think that if we lowered everybody's cholesterol, we'd do away with heart disease. We should tell our patients we've made a mistake. It's not true. But then what should we tell them to do? Tell them what will really benefit them is lifestyle. Handle those risk factors: tobacco, alcohol, exercise, keep your weight down. And they didn't like the idea of not eating meat. They rebelled against that when the American Heart Association brought that out. So they changed it: eat more fruits and vegetables. They really mean less meat. But they didn't want to tell people because they didn't like that. Now, I've been handing out a piece of paper here, comparison of dietary fats, showing the different kinds of fats. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that at all?
Let me see. Where? You have to talk to make it so I can see it. You have to talk.
All right. Anyway, here's a comparison of various dietary fats. I have them all different colors. And the way they handled the meat problem, they didn't talk about meat. The Heart Association just said, lower your intake of saturated fat down to 5 to 6% of the calories. Now, let me tell you what that means. That means vegetarian diet. But they haven't said it. They haven't used those bad words to get people upset. They didn't talk about meat. They didn't talk about vegetarianism or anything like that. But saturated fat. Now, where's the saturated fat coming from? It's the red represents the saturated fat. And coconut oil has a lot of it. Now, coconut oil gives you a lot of is a ketogenic diet. So if you have little kids that are having, what do they say? They have these smells where they, lay down and they can't. The epileptic attack things. How do you handle it? You put them on a ketogenic diet, coconut oil, until you can get that lessened, and then you take them off of it. But instead of glucose in the brain, it's the ketone that's formed that they're living on in their brain. So we should cut down the saturated fat, but coconut oil has more than anything else. Butter, milk is high. Now, milk has butter fat. Okay. So that's very high in saturated fat. Palm oil is high. Lard is high. Beef fat is high. Cottonseed oil is high. But from peanut oil, soybean oil, olive oil, corn, sunflower, flaxseed, canola, all those are okay because there's less saturated fat. So we should avoid the foods that have high saturated fat. That means meat fat, it means dairy fat, and one other thing, chocolate. People don't realize it, but chocolate has saturated fat in it. So it's the dairy fat, the meat fat, chocolate fat we should avoid. Avocado is a good fat. That's a monounsaturated fat. That's good fat. That lowers the blood cholesterol. So avocado is excellent. There's two fats you have to have in your diet. One is linoleic acid, and the other is alpha-linolenic acid. Okay, linoleic acid is easily found in most of the oils. Canola oil, sunflower oil, all these have it easy to find. Okay, that's okay. You should get 10% of your calories from this, according to the Heart Association. But the alpha-linolenic acid, which is the omega-3, is hard to get. Flaxseed oil has it. Chia seed has it. So we should know about those two fatty acids. They're important to get. In fact, where I'm living right now, they have a whole sack of flaxseed, ground up flaxseed. You got to grind it up because you won't get the oil out. Otherwise, it just goes right through you. It's excreted. But flaxseed is important. Chia seed is important to give you what you need in the alpha-linolenic acid. Any questions about that? Anyway, I want to tell you about my life story. I grew up in China. 16, 18 years, I lived over in China. And at the age of 12, I finished my father's first year of Chinese language, which is 1,000 characters. Takes about 3,000 to read a newspaper. But I finished the first year. And I was wondering whether I should be a minister. I was religiously inclined, whether I should be a minister or doctor. But I saw all the doctors had more influence with the people than the ministers did. So I chose to be a doctor. So I went into the medical field. We had a doctor there in China who had some special training in taking out thyroids from Johns Hopkins. And he was known all over China for taking out goiters, thyroids. And here I was only 12 years of age. And I said to myself, that's silly. Why doesn't he give the people iodine so they don't get the goiters in the first place? And now iodine has gotten to be a big thing. Did you know that breast tissue next to your thyroid has iodine, a lot of iodine? A lot of people don't know that. So if you have any breast lumps or something, they're treating it now by giving the people more iodine to make sure they have adequate iodine. So iodine is important. And anyway, watching him do all those thyroid operations, I said, that's silly. He should give the people iodine. That pushed me into going preventive. So I went into preventive medicine. And you can do that quite nicely with the diet. Now, another thing too, you should think about the kids. You know, we think you got to have an MD or PhD to teach anybody nutrition. It's not true. Kids can do it. I've taught kids how to do this. I had a 5-week course teaching kids how to do what people pay a lot of money to get their master's in public health and nutrition. You know, they pay a lot of money for that. They don't have to have that. You could just give them 5 reasons why not to smoke and have them go out and tell everybody not to smoke, and this is why. And so we can get kids to teach nutrition in the same way. I took some students over to the Philippines. It was exciting. I said, you've got to find a village over here where there's malnutrition in the under 5-year age group. Design a program to cure the problem. We finally found the little village on Pulilio. And our first problem was toilets. They didn't have toilets. They had outhouses and they didn't like them. Because when the boards got old, somebody fell through. He got a bad nickname. Okay. so we didn't they didn't like toilets, the outhouses. And we had to dig our own hole. And there was a snake there. I said, don't tell the girls about it. They won't use it. So we had to dig another hole. And we dug it so the girls could sit on these 2 branches that went out ways and go to the bathroom out there that way. And we cleaned the branches off real good, but they were from a tree that put out a lot of sap. So when the girls sit down there, they get up from there and there's all these strings of sap hanging onto them. And but we had a toilet building contest. And of the 100 homes in that village, before we left, 50 of them had toilets. And we had to build our own first. So that's one thing we did for those people. It was a coconut island. They grew rice. They had fish. They grew some soybeans. And they had a little bit of vitamin A and C from Kangkong. That's their swamp cabbage. And these little drainage puddles, pools. There was some green stuff there that had vitamin A and vitamin C there. So they had that. But they were all 8 to 10 inches too short compared to the well-nourished kids in the Makati area of Manila. So we had to get them to eat more. That meant we had to teach them gardening. As a result, the governor of the province made a rule, a law. Every school must teach gardening. That in itself was a remarkable thing. All schools were teaching gardening. Nutrition was the best way to get what they needed. Well, my experiences overseas really were useful to me in China. It pushed me into being a doctor, pushed me into going into prevention. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's true. And I would say, next to giving up tobacco and alcohol, the next thing is get exercise. Exercise is extremely important. Then we should get to the vegetarian diet. It keeps you from getting overweight. It's really good. A lot of people don't realize that it's that good. Any questions you have?
Well, I have a lot of questions, actually. Like, I'm curious what you eat, Dr. Scharffenberg, and what did you eat growing up, and has that changed much?
Well, it's changed a little, but not a whole lot. I was a vegetarian from the beginning. I've eaten fish 3 times in my life when I was a kid. I remember we were at the neighbor's house once for Thanksgiving. They served turkey. I don't usually eat turkey, but I tried to eat it. I couldn't chew it up. It was too tough. I said to my mother, What should I do with it? She says, spit it out. No, so I was not used to meat growing up even. I ate a little bit, but not much. But I think the vegetarian diet was the one difference. We didn't use a lot of sugar either. That's another important thing. We now know, just recently we learned that sugar increases the risk of heart attack. It's interesting. So the Heart Association recommends no more than, well, let's see, 9 grams a day for men and 6 for women. You don't need much. Okay, somebody else has a question.
Yeah. No, but can you tell us, like, for example, like what you ate yesterday, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and what you did for exercise?
Right. Now, I do something quite different and that other people don't do. I didn't do it when I was a kid, but I'm on 2 meals a day. I don't eat in the evening. So it's just 2 meals. Did you know that today scientists are saying the same thing? There's a dietitian down in Alabama, I think it is, that she got that movement going here. Don't eat after 2 p.m. is what she says. So I don't. I have 2 meals a day. If you don't eat late, it helps for weight control, which is our major problem in this country. It helps for sleep apnea. It helps for your metabolism, your metabolic cycles, keep the glucose level doesn't bounce around so much. So this 2 meal a day idea is good. Don't eat late in the day, eat early in the day.
What time is your breakfast and what time is your lunch? Do you live by that? Do you live by that?
Yeah, I usually eat about 6:30 in the morning, and then lunch 12:30 or 1. Then no more till the next morning. So that's what worked out very fine for me. Then I can usually eat with other people at lunchtime.
Well, what time do you wake up and what time do you go to bed?
Well, I am an early riser. I usually get up at 4 o'clock. And that means I go to bed early. I go to bed 8, 9, easy, at least that early. So I go to bed early. Breakfast is the best meal of the day for me. It's so good that I even sometimes have it twice a day.
What do you have for breakfast at 6:30 in the morning?
So there's all different kinds of things you could have. Now, let me give you some. I like dry cereals, but if it's got to be less sugar in it, it should be like shredded wheat. That's fine. I have cooked cereal, lots. Oatmeal. I like waffles, but waffles aren't healthy. White flour, then sugar, honey on top, it's not a healthy food. So my wife designed a good waffle recipe. 2-2-2 recipe. 2 cups of oats, 2 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of oil, and half a teaspoon of salt. That would make a white waffle. People like brown waffles. So you got to get some carbohydrate in there. So you add to it half a banana, a little bit of applesauce, something like this, carbohydrate to make it brown. Then on top of it, you put your almond butter, peanut butter, whatever. And then I put slices of banana with cashew cream with it, which is very good. And we make an ice cream. Do you know how to make ice cream? Well, you make it from bananas. Get real ripe bananas. You peel them. You freeze them. Bring them out frozen and run them through a champion juicer. They're made in Lodi, by the way. The industrial ones are the better ones. You use those champion juicer, run it through it. It comes out like a ice cream. If you want to make it strawberry ice cream, mix some strawberries with it. Or mango, but it takes the banana and make it thick like an ice cream. but that's tremendous. Then, of course, you can put another waffle on top and keep going up, you know.
That sounds great. I didn't realize, because I live near Lodi now, that the Champion Juicer was made there. I thought they went out of business after the pandemic.
Well, maybe they did. I don't know.
But I love the Champion Juicer for banana ice cream. So if you eat breakfast at 6:30, getting up at 4:30, and you said you eat lunch at approximately what time?
12:31.
But you don't get hungry the last 7 hours of the day, not having any food?
When you change your diet, you do for about 2 weeks. But then you get over it. You get in the habit.
Yeah. No,
You know?
I eat 2 meals a day too, but I eat lunch and dinner.
Yeah, yeah. But they're trying to get the people to have the longest time from the last meal till the next meal. They want 16 to 18 hours is what they're trying to do. They say that really helps in a lot of things, they say.
Right.
So
Well, I'm sure you've heard the old adage, breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, dinner like a pauper.
Right. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
nice.
Right.
So waffles for breakfast. So what is your typical lunch?
But Chinese food, I can eat vegetables on Chinese food.
Do you cook for
cooking.
yourself, Dr. Scharffenberg? Do you cook for yourself?
I do some, yeah. But wok cooking is good. I love Chinese food. See, rice. I'm great on rice.
Oh, I love rice.
Like oats too, but I'm great on rice. So the oatmeal waffle is a good thing for breakfast. Now, for lunch, I have a harder time with lunch. I eat my vegetables usually at the lunchtime, not in the morning. Now, for breakfast, for example, the other thing I like is an egg substitute tofu. Scrambled tofu with a little turmeric makes it yellow in color, you know. And so I like tofu for breakfast, but I'll eat that for lunch too. I like Chinese food for lunch. Okay. I'm trying to think. Pastas, you can have pastas, but most pastas are refined. It's better to have foods that are not pastas. You can get whole wheat pastas, but it's good to get something that's natural. Now, actually, if you start to think about cancer, what's the best foods for cancer?
Greens, berries?
Yeah, tomatoes are one of the best. Tomatoes. A food that has both vitamin A and vitamin C is especially good. There aren't many of those. I don't know, a sweet potato might fit there, but a melon, yellow melon, that would fit in there. That's very good. Beans are very good. For example, if you eat meat once a week, you increase your risk of colon cancer about 2.5-fold. But if you ate beans 6 days a week, it negates all that bad effect from the meat. Did you know that?
I did not.
In other words, colon cancer is down to 0, just like a vegetarian is, if you ate beans 6 days a week. Okay, so that's kind of exciting. I was preaching at a church in Romania. There was a gypsy on the front row. And I told him this story, that we'd done this study to show how good these beans were. When we got up to sing the closing hymn, he couldn't sing the words. He just sang, God praise the beans, God praise the beans. He was so excited how the beans negated the bad effect of the meat. But I like food a lot. I have it a lot even for lunchtime instead of the vegetables. But the greens are very good in lowering your risk of cancer. The greens, tomatoes, greens, melons, beans, those are all excellent foods for lowering cancer risk. But the same risk factors, the 7 risk factors that reduces cardiovascular disease, is also reducing cancer risk too. But this is just a natural way of living. Food in a natural state. We got to we got to get more fiber in our diet.
Absolutely.
In other words, the people we talk about vegetarian diet, that's a good way to go. But another way to say the same thing is say, get more fiber in your diet. We need to get 30 to 50 grams of fiber every day in our diet.
Dr. Scharffenberg, I know you've mentioned that there's no safe amount of alcohol, so I'm guessing that's not what you drink. What do you drink? Just water?
Well, I take water. Now, the nutritionist said, used to be for some juices, they're against juices now. Let me give you why. Orange juice increases the risk of diabetes, but whole orange decreases the risk of diabetes. So most nutritionists are saying, let's stick to foods in the natural state, the whole form, not juices. They're back to water for in-between meal eating.
Nice. What about exercise? What kind of exercise do you get every day?
I like to promote the idea of useful exercise. People don't know what that means, but it's not running a marathon. Walking is okay, but gardening is what I did. I did a lot of gardening. And I wish the sun would stay up longer so I could do more. But I did gardening.
Did you know Dr. Ellsworth Wareham?
Yes, very well. Yes, I knew him well. I had a Chinese lady and her family come to see us in North Fork, where I lived in the mountains. I wanted to show them around this beautiful area. And I said, are you physically fit? Can you walk around? Oh, yes, we're physically fit. We have a tennis court in our yard. I play tennis every day. Well, I was walking with the husband ahead of the wife and the daughter and my wife. And I overheard their daughter say to the mother, Mom, tell them you're pooped. This is no tennis court. In other words, exercise on a level place compared to our hills up and down is quite different. It's quite different. I think you get much better results from exercise in the country over ground up and down rather than just on the pavement.
You're familiar with the blue zones, right?
Yes, I'm from Loma Linda.
So you are the blue zones.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything about Hans Deal as a young man and a student? Did you know he was going to make good?
He was my student. He was my student in my class, so I knew him well. He married a Filipino girl whose father was a banker in Manila, good friend of my father's, and so I knew Hans Deal quite well. There was another man who was very good, Don Hall. I don't know if you've heard him.
No, I haven't. No.
He excellent nutrition, and he left my school and used my ideas, sort of like Hans did only years before him. And he went up to Portland, Oregon, worked in a hospital for a year, and then started his own business. And he made $1 million the first year. He has 40 or 50 employees, brings in about $5 million a year. Teaching people how to live. He has a program. He got the Safeway administrators into a hotel and a weekend, fed them good food, showed them how to do it. And he says you will lower your insurance costs because your people won't be getting sick. They put 3 million of their workers on that program that he did. So he got a lot of people doing his program. And
what do you remember about Hans Deal?
What do I remember? Well, I think I knew his wife too better. She was a pianist and a singer.
Her name is Lily.
Lily, yeah, Lily Pond. And her father's Pond. He was a banker in charge of a bank in Manila. But Hans was from up in Canada. And then he came down to the U.S.
Yeah. So I have a surprise for you.
Okay.
Okay. I have got a surprise with you. There is somebody that would like to say hello to you that just joined the Zoom. I am so thrilled. And he'll be here any minute, and I think you'll remember him. Are you there, surprise guest?
Yeah, if I'm going to be a surprise, I guess I am. Hi, John.
Hi.
It's been a long time. John McDougall here, John, in case you...
I know. You look quite different.
Well, you know, the 50 years makes a difference, John.
It does. It does.
Yeah,
I still remember you. I still remember you in Hawaii years ago.
It's probably been 40
Memorial
years.
Hospital.
I don't know whether you had a chance to introduce John Scharffenberg properly, but he was one of my first inspirations as far as the fact that diet, particularly vegetarian diet, had anything to do with illness. In fact, he wrote an endorsement for my first book, The McDougall Plan. And we used to fight with some of those meat loving guys at Castle Hospital.
Because you were putting the pregnant ladies on total vegetarian diet and they got upset.
So
Yamashiro had me into the meeting when your name came up.
Well, you know, John, they never talked to me to my face. It's always behind my back.
But I saved your neck that time. You don't know it, but I saved your neck there. They finally asked me, "What do you think about this, Ken?" I said, "If you know what you're doing, you can do that. As a total vegetarian, you can do that."
Well, we certainly went through a lot of fun things. I remember the guy you fought over us being meat eaters, and I think you showed him a picture of a lion. You said, "That's a meat eater." You remember that lecture you gave? It was against one of the big Heart Association people that it was sure we had to have meat or we'd end up dying. It was crazy.
Well, you know, I had a meeting with the American, what is it? I don't know, it's a AAAS meeting. American Association for the Advancement of Science. And it was in Washington, D.C. And I had to debate the guy from Vanderbilt. And it was something, he wasn't even prepared, but he was going to beat me in that debate. The newspapers quoted everything I said and didn't quote anything he said.
Well, you know, we've certainly come a long way. And John and I, you know, I was like I was probably in my late 20s when we first met. So that was quite a while ago. I'm now 75, John. I hear you're approaching 99.
I'm 99 now. I'll be 100 this year.
Are you still enjoying life, John? That's what I need to know.
Oh, yes, I am. I'm enjoying life.
All right. That's important.
Well, now, where are you living now? Still up in Napa area?
No, we had a little roasting in October of 2017. It convinced us we needed to move. We got caught in the wildfires, John.
Where'd you move?
Oh, we moved up to the Northwest. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. You know, it's a little cooler up here, a little rainier, but the important thing was one of my sons, who's a medical doctor and a professor at Oregon Health and Science University, lives up here with his family. So it was a matter of moving from one family situation to another. And, you know, I miss California a bit, but we were in Hawaii together. That's where we spent our time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, good to see you again, John. Good to see you.
It's good to see you're doing so well. You give me hope, John. Maybe this vegetarian stuff's going to work out.
Yeah, you know, a fellow died from COVID the other day, a friend of mine. He talked to me a lot, and he called me up before he passed away. He wasn't sick, but he called me up, and he said, "John, you had a lot of funny ideas, but it certainly paid off, hasn't it?" I was living so much longer than other people. He said it certainly paid off, hasn't it?
Well, you sure look good.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you. I'm glad I got to. I wish you a happy birthday.
Dr. McDougall, thank you so much for stopping by. Maybe you'll come back December 15th, and Dr. Scharffenberg will come back on December 15th when he actually turns 100.
Oh, really? Wouldn't that be nice? So I'll be here. I hope to be here.
You will.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. McDougall. It's such a treat. Thank you.
It was nice to talk to you, John. Thank you for making this happen, AJ.
Of course, it's my pleasure. From one John to another. So did you like your surprise, Dr. Scharffenberg?
Yes, I did.
All right.
I haven't been with him very much for years.
It's so, I tried to get Dr. Deal too, but he was working, but we'll have him back for your 100th for sure. Well, that'd be great. So what else do you want to accomplish in your life, Dr. Scharffenberg?
Well, I've accomplished quite a few things, and I would like to show you something. I don't know whether you can see this or not. Can you see this at all?
Yep. It's got something with a stethoscope on it.
Yes. Oh, that's the bottom part. How about that?
World Nutrition Guidelines.
Yes. This is all based on a vegetarian diet. I have my one sentence university course to start with. Then the first page is really on cardiovascular disease, how those 7 risk factors to avoid. And then I have cancer prevention, preventing obesity, the optimum diet, vegetarian diet. Yeah. But anyway, this is laminated, opens up 6 pages, and I've done a lot of things like this, getting out good material that looks attractive, colorful.
That is fantastic. I love that you're not afraid to take a stance on alcohol, because so many people will not come out against it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's fantastic. So what is your best piece of advice to somebody that wants to age well like you have?
Well, I think one thing is exercise. And with Alzheimer's, we've shown that too. It's exercise in midlife that's important. Not any old time. Not when you're young, not when you're old. Exercise in midlife is the thing that's important. And see, it was 51 when I moved to the country to start to exercise. And I exercised a lot. I finally, about at 80, decided I would get a wood splitter to help me split the wood. But otherwise, I did it by hand. I filled up 3 sheds, wood sheds for every winter.
Mona's wanting to know if she can buy a copy of your book. Is it available anywhere?
Well, I haven't really. The other things I wrote in book form there are old time. But all my lectures that I have are in little booklets. Like this one I showed you on fat. I have one on vegetarian diet. We have a whole lot of these little booklets. Can you see that one?
Yeah, I've got to raise it a little bit higher. And you have to talk when you're showing something.
Okay, all right. So anyway, that book is good on vegetarian diet. I've used a lot of that. I wrote a book once back in the 70s, 1970s, Problems with Meat. And most total vegetarians have seen it, know about it. Problems with meat. I was showing all the problems with meat, disease and everything from the meat. But it's really exciting that you don't have to have an MD or PhD. Kids can be taught 1, 2, 3 simple little rules, and it's their choice. If they choose the right thing, they'll go in the right direction. They'll be healthy.
What about things like sleep? Where do you stand on how important sleep is to one's health and longevity?
I think sleep is important, but I have a hard time. My mind is going so fast, even at night. I wake up, I think of something, and lest I forget it, I go to the computer and write it down. And so I think sleep is important.
What about thinking? What about thinking good thoughts, or just like the mental aspect?
Well, I think mental thing is important. I didn't talk about that with longevity, but have you heard the term ACE? Adverse childhood experiences. ACE.
Yes.
The more ACEs you have, you can shorten your life 20 years if you have 6 ACEs. And most of our diseases in adulthood start in childhood. And there's a lot of studies by a group in Canada now, putting all the studies together about how it affects the brain, how the all the factors that affect the brain. And these adverse circumstances like divorce in the family or going to jail, or somebody in the family with mental disease, all these kinds of factors, ACEs, there are about 10 of them. And if you get those, you can't get over that very easily. But there are some who are resilient and can get over it if they have good mentors who are religious people. Get people out in the country, you know. But otherwise, they just get one generation to the other. Get be an optimist, not a pessimist. Yeah. But I think for childhood, it's very important that we spend our money in having people in the right environment in childhood.
Tell me, what have you seen change the most in the world since 1923, good or bad?
Well, I'm just trying to think what it is.
Or what new advances are you are you happy with? Because when you were, I mean, there's a lot of things that weren't invented when you were born that we have now.
I think the thing that we have to do now, we haven't learned how to do. We know a lot more than what we do. We need to learn how to get people to do what we know we should do. We haven't learned how to do that. And that's too bad. We know a lot about what we should do. We can't get hardly anybody to do it. I think the next breakthrough in health is going to be in learning how to get people to do what they know they should do. I don't know how to do that yet, but I think that's what we got to work on.
Think you might write another book?
I might. I just wrote a book of my story of my life. But
you know, Dr. Scharffenberg, you know Esther Loveridge, right?
Yes.
She's watching live and she said, please come visit us at Vegan Plate again. If you go, okay. I'll go. I'll go if you go. It's during my show, but I'll change my show to come meet you in person.
Yeah, I'll be glad to go.
Was your family? I know you. I believe you had a wife for a long time. She passed away, I believe, 10 or 11 years ago.
Yeah. Yes.
Was she also vegetarian? And did you have any children? And were they vegetarian?
She's vegetarian. I had 2 children, one of each kind. They're trying to make more kinds now, but I had only 2, and they were vegetarians. Brought up vegetarians. They're still vegetarian.
Nice. Did they live near you?
The one, my son does. He's 3 hours from me. But I turned my property over to him up there in the mountains.
Oh. You know,
but my daughter lives a long ways away.
Oh, well, I bet they'll both be there for your 100th birthday. Where are you going to celebrate your 100th birthday?
Probably with my son and his wife.
But are you going to have like a big party at like?
No, nothing very big, but we'll have some celebration.
Well, I think we should make a big party. You know, we got Thunder Mountain Casino up here.
Can you see this at all now?
That's you.
Yeah, that I did when I was 95.
Wow, you look even handsomer now than you were at 95.
And see on the back,
You're still working.
So. And I'm going to make one like this when I'm 100.
I can't wait. Well, you'll have to come back on the show. Do you have any pets?
No, but I like them. But I haven't been to the same place enough to like it. But I had dogs. I had monkeys. I've had rabbits. I had a deer. Birds, parrots. You know, I've had lots of pets, cats.
I feel like they contribute to our health and longevity.
Yeah, I think so too.
Do you allow sun on your face? Do you get out in the sun every day?
No, but I should. I'm for that. I'm for getting as much sun as possible without getting sunburn. We need vitamin D. Now, that's really a hormone. That's a hormone. We call it a vitamin, but it's a hormone. But we need that. And when you get old, your skin's working at half speed, so we don't absorb the sun as well. Our liver's working at half speed, doesn't work as well. So kidneys working at half speed. So we have a little problem with the age on the vitamin D. And overweight people are deficient D. They have to get big doses to get it in their blood, to get their blood level up.
Have you noticed, like, since you've lived almost 100 years, that people are becoming more and more overweight?
Yes. U.S. used to be number one. Now Mexico's beat us. They're number one in being fat.
Were there a lot of overweight people that you knew growing up? Because I only say that I was not trying to shame or make people feel bad. I just noticed that the world seems to have changed. When I watch an old movie on television, even the extras, there didn't seem to be a lot of overweight people in the 30s and 40s.
No. We had where I was in Shanghai, there's one or two people that were overweight, but most of them weren't. No, we didn't have it.
So I noticed that you do not wear glasses. You do not have hearing aids. I don't know if you use a cane or a walker, but do you have any medical infirmaries or disabilities?
Well, my eyes, everybody past 80 usually gets some eye problems, cataracts. And so I had cataracts. So they took them out and put lenses in. So I had 20/20 vision. So I no longer needed glasses.
Nice. Very cool.
My hearing is not the best, but it's not too bad either.
And you walk well? Do you walk well unassisted?
I'm walking okay.
And do you, if it's not too personal, do you take any medication?
Well, as of in the 80s, I started taking lisinopril for blood pressure just going up a little, not much. It didn't start till in the 80s. And then that's created a cough. And so they changed it to something else so they'll have the cough. But besides that, the other medicines I take are B12, vitamin B12.
That's what people are asking. What supplements do you take?
Yeah, B12, and I take vitamin D.
Nice.
Those are the two things, nutrients I take. But mostly we can get it from our food, but those two, you can't always do it so well.
What do you do for fun?
You know, I like to do bird watching. I've got a nice scope that I can go out and look way, way in the distance down at a lake or a pond and see all different kinds of birds, identify them very nicely. I like that, bird watching. That's my favorite.
Do you ever go to the movies or watch television or read books? And if so, what do you like?
I don't go to the movies, but I'm seeing more where I'm staying right now. I see TV much more than I used to. I get the news all the time. Fox News, you know, they have all these murder cases on. I'm tired of them.
Oh no, that can't be good for your, to be in your brain. Let's see if there's any more questions. Oh, somebody wants to know, what do you like more, beans or potatoes?
You know, I like beans, but they're hard on me, more gas and problems. Although lentils have least problem, lentils. Potatoes, we say people should be eat more vegetables, but we don't really mean potatoes when we say that. We mean other things, but potatoes. The greens, particularly. I had a trouble with greens. I grew up in China, and we never ate any fresh greens because they use human manure for fertilizer.
Uh-oh.
So we never used fresh greens. And I came home and I wasn't used to using them. But then when I read about if you eat these, you cut your risk of dying from everything so well, I started eating them more. So having a salad every day, I think, is good.
Yep, absolutely. Well, do you like balsamic vinegar?
I don't use vinegar at all.
Not at all. Oh no, because you
Not
get
at all.
the reason I say is because every guest on the show gets 2 free bottles. So, oh no, you don't use
No,
any.
I don't use vinegar, but what else do I not use? But meat, fish, I don't use any of that.
What about, I'm guessing you don't drink coffee.
No, I don't use coffee.
Me neither. Let's see. What about chocolate? I don't use chocolate.
Yeah, well, chocolate's a little bit different than coffee. For the caffeine, for example, a cup of chocolate might have, or a candy bar, chocolate candy bar might have 10 milligrams of cholesterol, whereas your coffee cup might have 300. So degree. A caffeine, I mean, yeah. Caffeine.
Randy wants to know, how long did your parents live? So does longevity run in your family?
No, it doesn't. My dad died when he was 76, and my mother died in her late 60s. She kind of had Alzheimer's, but I outlived my brothers so much, 13 years, 16 years already.
You ever think,
I think it's the exercise that made the difference.
do you think you'll get married again?
I don't think so. I'm just marrying another person with a disease.
You have such
Would
a
you-
great sense of humor.
Should I marry somebody the same age?
No. You're just delightful. You're cracking me up. Oh, do you know Dr. Wayne Dysinger?
Oh, I knew his father. I taught his father physical diagnosis in medical school. His father, Bill Dysinger.
That's incredible. When I don't live near him anymore, but when I did, he was my personal medical doctor. He's fabulous.
Yeah. I know the Dysinger family.
That's great. That's wonderful. Stephanie would like to know if you still drive.
Yes, of course.
Wow. That's amazing. I love it. Susanna says, do you have any advice for someone in their 50s who switched to this way of eating 3 years ago?
Just keep switched.
Yeah.
Yes. Don't go back the other way. It's important to keep on the vegetarian program.
Nice. And Joyce says, do you have any comments on the advent of GMOs and increased pesticide use?
Okay. GMO, the World Health Organization has a document out, answers to 20 questions on GMO. And they say it has no health problems. Okay. It's got other problems, but not health. There are some Italian scientists that got together and reviewed every GMO study, 17, 1800, I know, a lot of them. And they couldn't find anything wrong, health-wise. Then the next thing that happened was at the University of California in Davis. They studied about 600 billion, something like that, animals before and after they were allowed to have GMO foods. And they couldn't find any difference between before and after. So the GMO thing, there's ethical problems with it, but not really health problems. Now, as far as insecticides and things like that, pesticides, fruits have a lot of them on them, but fruits have done us so good that we say it outweighs the bad effect of any pesticide. So they say, don't stop eating fruits because of that.
Yeah, fruit's great. But you mentioned potatoes, but sweet potatoes are good, right?
Yes. Yes, sweet potatoes are good.
You know, the Okinawans, they eat lots of sweet potatoes, and they have great longevity as well.
I could grow them up where I was. It was too cold. Up in North Fork. I was at 3,800 feet elevation.
Do you miss living in China?
I miss China. I liked China. I feel like it's home. And it's interesting about China. When a Chinese is your friend, he's your friend for life. Even if you get put in jail, he's still your friend.
Yeah.
I like them as people.
Dr. McDougall, who came on a few minutes ago, said that there's something. Do you speak Chinese? Because he says that they greet each other with not hello or goodbye, but something that means, have you had your rice today? Is that true?
I don't remember what he's thinking about. But I speak Chinese.
Well, the thing is, people in our world today are so afraid of eating complex carbohydrates, like rice and beans and potatoes. And yet the Asians, they do very well with rice, and rice is amazing.
The brown rice was fed to the prisoners in jail. The good rice they thought was white rice, which is not right, really. But most people ate white rice over there.
Yeah.
I like to eat at home where people don't know nutrition, so it's the only time I get to eat white rice.
Which do you prefer? Because I love white rice, and it's like you get afraid to say it in the vegan world, you get bashed, but I think white rice is delicious. Yep. Oh, you won't know what this means, but I got a super chat donation from Lou. Thank you very, very much. Well, let's get you on the calendar for December, okay? And come back and see what you've learned between now and your 100th birthday.
It's Chinese New Year's just passed. We used to say, Gong Gong Fa Cai. That means happiness, wealth, everything. Wish you wealth and happiness and all that for Chinese New Year's.
And we wish the very same for you, Dr. Scharffenberg. This has been so much fun getting to know you. I hope you will come to one of the local events so that we can meet you. We actually have one Monday night at Himalaya. It's a restaurant I don't know how far you are from Sacramento, but it's a restaurant in Sacramento. And it is owned by a former Tibetan monk. And the food is very clean and healthy, and it will include rice. And maybe you'll come. Oh, but you don't eat at 5 o'clock. You can't come. We'll have to do a lunch one.
Yeah.
I have to do one at lunchtime for you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much.
Hey, well, thank you so much, Dr. Scharffenberg.
I can always talk to you, even though I'm not eating, so that doesn't matter.
Oh, that's true. You can come and you can have some water. Could you have a cup of herbal tea, or is that?
I can. Yeah.
Or have some water. And thank you, Dr. Ng, for helping with the Zoom. We have another wonderful plant-based doctor who's in the shadows who is helping facilitate this. So we'll say goodbye now. And thank you so much, Dr. Scharffenberg. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow when my guest is Dr. Gustavo Tolosa for a new show called Breakfast, Lunch, and Dinner with the plant-powered pianist. You got to be really careful when you say that. I hope you guys